Oh, surprise, surprise, my indicator's right again. Will I get any credit for it? Of course not. I talked to you, made this video on Tuesday. I talked about the rally. I was predicting we would move above this peak with this weekly bar right here, and then the Monday session I told you we were going to continue. We rallied Monday, we rallied Tuesday, predicted that we would get a higher high, told you we were going to break above the trend line. Now my signals were right. We went a little bit higher. I was looking for prices to stall at the resistance zone between 70 and 70,000, just under the previous peak over here. We went up to it, and we were just a couple $100. But I told you on the 29th, we're now in the Monday session and for a new week. But I told you on the 29th, last Tuesday, with this rally, we had an 8% rally, over 8%. I told you to be watching. I've even stopped and I closed the video here so you could see. Again, I talked about a topping tail. Do you see this over here? Go back and watch the video. Okay? And I talked about, do we close below this trend line, okay, and get a topping tail? That would be bearish. Close strong. And I told you we could see this whole thing given back. I showed, again, we could back test, and then we could come up and get a lower high, or weekly signals all begin to turn back to bullish. Then maybe we get a bullish phase into February, January, February. But my guess is that we're going to form a top in all likelihood. So again, I'm watching. Again, if the weekly signals all begin to turn back to bullish, then it's going to be bullish. But again, I talked about this rally being given back, and we gave it all back, most of it back. But you're getting a bottoming tail in the daily time frame, a topping tail in the weekly time frame. And I talked about this last Tuesday when we had the 8% rally up. That wasn't supposed to happen. We weren't supposed to give back the rally. And we gave it all back at the lows of the week. Again, the Moon Boys told us it wasn't going to happen. But yet, again, I get it right again. The rally right, I got the pullback right, I got these other moves up and down right because I have good indicators. The boys told us we were going to come up here and continue going, and all these sell-offs were not going to happen. Again, we're up 40% from when my signals, right after my signals turned bullish, we've had a 40% move higher. My signals caught most of that move. Boys are still waiting for us to get back above 73,800, which we're not near that level again. We've moved off of it. We probably will test it, though. Here we go, and then, again, the topping process will complete. Watch the video all the way through. But again, another prediction correct, which I will not get credit for because I actually believe Bitcoin's in a topping process. If you dare to say that, you're committing sacrilege in the Moonboy cult. And again, I'm a trader. I play these moves back and forth, back and forth. I've been long, I've been short, back and forth. My signals have done a good job watching the bullishness, the bearishness there for the short term. But again, like I said, I'm looking for a topping process here. Another amazing call. And if you want to see it, go back and watch the video from the 29th when I posted it. Talked about a topping tail. Do we get a topping tail like that? I said, do we close strong or do we close weak? And I told you I think we could pull back and then go up and get a lower high or form a divergence, which I'm going to show you in this video. I still think that that is very, very possible. Continue to make amazing calls. And again, while the Moon Boys finally got it right, we did get a breakout. We did get a legitimate breakout above that line. They were finally right after 7.5 months. My signals have been right all along. I'm saying Bitcoin's in a topping process. I'll never, ever get credit for that. The final result. Here is the final result. Look at this up close. Again, I talked about closing back below this trend line right here. I told you that if we close below it and we can't get back above it, that would be extremely bearish and just keep going. But I told you, again, we can go back and test this high, form a divergence or a lower high, very similar. And I talked about it, and if you didn't watch my last video, and I'll touch on it briefly here, but go watch my last video. I went into great length of detail in the weekly time frame talking about the 2021 top. And I talked about we could see these topping tails develop around here like we did in 2021, or even over here. You got one in March, and then you got one in April here. Again, you can see something like that over here, where we go back up, and here we got a lower high. Okay, and again, we could see something similar to that if we get back above this trend line. But I talked about a divergence, a lower high, or again, if we just can't do it, then we could get a topping tail reverse. But we're probably in a topping process. My guess is we're going to rally back up. We're getting a topping tail in the weekly time frame, a bottoming tail in the daily time frame. So I think we're going to rally. And I talked about coming back and back testing and then trying to go higher. And again, we're coming back to this trend line. Again, we'll see if we can rally. Now, again, regardless of which way of those three scenarios it plays out, I think Bitcoin's in a topping process. The fourth scenario is we have a legitimate breakout that we pull back, and I think that is the conventional wisdom that, the people that told us we weren't going to have the 8%, given back, and Bitcoin, and just get it for you here, Bitcoin had an 8% rally, over 8% rally. We closed up 1.17%. Oh, gee, I told you, again, that was very likely. Okay, Moon Boys told us, that's never going to happen. Just like they told us all these other sell-offs were never, ever going to happen. Now, again, and why do I say this? Because really, if I were to come out here and just start saying Bitcoin's going to go up and ignoring the back and forth price fluctuations, I would be considered a genius. If all I have to do is come out and go, Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000, I would be the Einstein of cryptocurrency. Okay, but again, the Moon Boys are still waiting. They told us, here we go, and again, they told us all these sell-offs and rallies were not going to happen. They're still down because they're still waiting for price to get back above this level. That's where they told us we were going to keep going. Nothing's taken Bitcoin down. It had just broken out above the previous peak, and again, I told you Bitcoin was topping at that time, and it did. Now, we have sold off. We've rebounded back up to this level, and we're still below it. Again, I thought that would be a top. I could be wrong about that. And again, boys will never say that they were wrong about the sell-offs, and now at a breakout, and again, told you it was going to happen, but again, I told you I thought we'd stall around 70 to 71,000 and then turn back down. Again, exactly what I think, okay? And we went a little bit higher than I thought because I thought that high would hold, and I thought we'd stall around 70 or 71,000 if we did break above that trend line, predicting it would happen. Boys go, we had a breakout, and again, they are, rocket scientists, but yet, I call a bottom over here and say, hey, we're bottoming out, and then reaffirm the bottom right here and say, hey, we're going to go higher, and then tell you even right here, hey, we're pulling back, but we're still going to go higher and likely form a divergence. Getting every single one of those moves right, including the pullback and all these other moves I've talked about in my great length of detail, but I believe Bitcoin's in a top. That is heresy in the Moon Boy cult. So again, unpopular things to say, but yet again, while the Moon Boys have been wrong for 7.5 months up until this breakout, which again I think it's going to be a fake out, as I continue to say, unless my signals, which are correct, validate a bullish move. Okay, and my signals through this 7-month period were consistently bearish warning of a topping process. Again, if they revert back to bullish, going sideways or going up. But right now, again, my guess is we could test this level. If we end up turning down, that would be extremely bearish. So again, just letting you know the different scenarios. There are 4 of them. One is that we go up, we get a lower high and then turn. We get a higher high and then turn and form a bearish divergence. The third is we just sell off and that's it. That's all she wrote, and everything reverts back to bearish in the daily time frame and remains bearish in the weekly time frame. The 4th scenario is we get a legitimate breakout. Those are the scenarios. Whichever way it works out, again, I am looking for, in all likelihood, a topping process. I think this is a fake out, but again, see that our topping tail holds. Got a couple of them here over at the 2021 top. We got a peak, and then we sold off. And then we rallied back up and we got another peak, could see something like that. Here, we have what could be a larger topping process like we had over here. You had a peak right here, and then you sold off 55%, came back up, and then you pierced this high just ever so slightly, and then you did it again. and here we came to just under that level, but we could still pierce that high and form a divergence on some indicators, and then end up reversing. And we dropped 52% very, very quickly into after the November peak into January here. We dropped Bitcoin 52%. We lost over half its value. Now again, I really don't care if Bitcoin goes up or down. I can make money either way. So again, tell you what I think. I happen to believe Bitcoin's in a topping process right here. If my signals all turn back to bullish in the weekly time frame, it can remain that way. Then again, then we got a shot at rallying into January or February if we can get a legitimate breakout, and then it could possibly go. But my signals have been bearish, and again, the Moon Boys told us this move was never going to happen. I talked about this move back to the 50-week moving average. Over here, we moved back to the 50-week moving average. We bounced, we went slightly higher. It's a bigger move because we had a 55% drop. Over here, we had a 33% drop. But again, my signals called that bottom. My signals called that bottom. Been calling tops and bottoms back and forth. Amazing signals. But again, will I ever get credit for it? Of course not. Of course not, because I believe Bitcoin's in a topping process. And if you dare to say that, you will be exiled from the crypto community. So there you have it. But amazing calls over the last 7.5 months. And I'm looking, look, this is the 69,000 area. We've made 10 attempts now. 10 attempts to get above it, and they've all failed. So again, is that it? Is the topping tail it, and we just start going down? Or do we try to revisit that level again and maybe form a divergence and get something like what we had over here, where we had this, well, let me change the tool here, this divergence right here. Do we get something like that? And we go up to maybe like, this is 73,700. Do we go up to 74, 75, 76,000 and get a divergence? Oh, Trump's coming in, and the crypto community, applauds that because he's pro-crypto. And if you look at on social media, everybody's saying that we're going to get this massive Trump rally, and maybe we do, but maybe it forms a divergence, and then that's it, and we start seeing something like that. So again, I'm looking, if we do get a bigger rally, again, does it quickly fail? Is it a topping process? If it doesn't, then you have a legitimate breakout. If this topping tail holds and we turn down, that's extremely bearish. But if we rally back up to get a lower high or a higher high, you could see something like this that looks something like this. So again, nobody thinks that's possible right now. As Bitcoin forms the topping tail at the Sunday close right there, we start the Monday session, Bitcoin gets a topping tail below the trend line right here, and we get a bottoming tail in the daily time frame. Here's the daily chart. Again, we just started the new session for Monday. Bitcoin's down about 0.5% right now. We got a bottoming tail just under the 20 period. But look at the trend line that we hit right here. We hit this one that we originally had. I excluded the shadow here that, again, rally up to the trend line. And then I told you, hey, we're going to still form a divergence here. Again, be off a little bit. But again, to have the guts to be able to save something before it happens, calling the bottom here, reaffirming the bottom here, calling the sell-off here, calling the sell-off over here. I warned you about all the topping signals. And then I'm telling you, we're probably going to get a bounce. It's probably going to be that we're going to be saying, oh, it's a back test. But look at the trend line we're coming to right there. Look at that. The one right here that I excluded the shadows, and we hit my 70,000 target level right there. We bounced off of it. Again, we're probably going to get a rebound for lower high or a higher high, and it might look something like this over here. It might look something like this or this. I think, again, it could be that we try to rally back up a couple of days, maybe get a lower high or a higher high. I told you about these divergences on indicators, and again, RSI's really form two equal peaks, but other oscillators have this nice looking divergence. We may see another one form or a confirmation of a lower high before we get a bigger turn down. But like I said, if we see signals begin to turn back to bullish weekly time frame, that's the game changer, which has not happened. To clear this area of resistance, the bulls have to prove it if it's the real deal. Go up and form a negative divergence and have the thing turn around going above 73,000. We stall at 74, 75, 76,000 and form a divergence and then reverse hard. My signals, again, we broke out here and we're either back testing or again completing a top that's going to produce a topping process. But again, the trend line right here, and again, remember I talked about the low here and the low here, and remember when we were selling off, I told you we could bounce right here, and then my signals began to warn of a bottom at 52,000, 53,000 as we got a bounce off 52,000 there, those 52, 53,000 area. Well, I've been predicting a move back up to the 68, 69,000 area, and then I predicted we would likely move above that to form a divergence, and then we've overthrown that area a little bit to test this, and we still may again go slightly above this peak in an overall topping process, maybe 74, 75, even 76,000. It still may form a top. The jury is still out here, and the bulls have to prove it if they're going to turn this around. And they haven't proved it. Got above 69,000 again. We dropped back below it. The 10th time now we've tried to get above 60, but I think you could still form a divergence. Maybe we go up to the upper band right here, into 74 or 75,000 or so. I told you about divergences on my indicators, and I told you we were going to get some kind of sell-off. I warned you about it. And again, it could be we get a triple diversion still or a confirmation of a lower high. So again, warned you about my oscillators. And again, the RSI made 2 equal peaks. It's probably going to form a divergence. Class B diversions with 2 equal peaks on the RSI. With this rally, if I show you my amazing signals, my calls that have been calling the turns back and forth, up and down. Again, the bullish call, the sell-off before it happened, calling for the bullish divergence here, and calling for the reaffirming of the bullish signals back over the lows at 52,000 after the signals turned bullish. Moving off of that 52,000 area, reaffirming them, talking about the pullback here, but still we're going to get a divergence that formed. Absolutely amazing call. Again, momentum is still bearish. Again, I think we're going to likely rally back up, get a lower high, or move above this high and get completing a topping process. Okay, we're seeing the gray shaded area telling us, showing up, saying, hey, something's about to happen. We got that last time. We had this move right here. Got that over here, had this move right here. Got that here, had this move down here. So again, it's telling us, hey, we're about to see a squeeze move, either up or down. My guess is it will be up, come back up and test the high for a lower high or a higher high, and then I think we get the turn. And I think with these signals, they're warning of a topping process. Over here, it was a pullback, but I think a larger sell signal is developing between these peaks, and I think we get one more. Next peak can look something like this, again, where we've sold off, got a bottoming tail here, but then we rebounded back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 days. We rallied for 4 days. We moved slightly higher. Again, with this peak and this peak, we moved higher, but then we reversed. So I think we could see something like that. Well, we've already gotten a topping tail in the weekly time frame. Yeah, but we got a bottoming tail here. So again, I think you're probably going to get a rally in all likelihood, and see something like what happened over there. And again, you say, well, momentum's bearish. If we just go a little bit further back, you could see momentum turned bearish over here, but then it turned back to bullish again. Went just a little bit higher, but then it also turned. So I think we could see something like that happen. For the record, my signals got it right again. Again, won't get credit for it, but I got it right. Again, we were told this sell-off, this 8% rally that we've had, here we go, and we were told it was not going to fizzle out and reverse. I told you it was likely going to do that. I talked about a topping tail on Tuesday. You'll see in this video. Topping tail forming before it ever formed. And the Moon Boys told us there's no possible way that could happen. There's some Moon Boys that I watch. I've got my favorites. Again, the oscillators I'm showing you in this video. Divergence right here. It played out beautifully. The warning signals played out beautifully. But again, I think we're in a topping process here in the daily time frame. Again, I think we're probably going to bounce. We tried to see at the lows, we tried to break the cloud here. And again, my guess is we're going to rebound. And everybody's going to say, oh, it's a back test. Of people that told us it was never going to happen. Oh, it's a back test. And then we're going to go. Now, again, Moon Boys, bullish from the breakout. My signals, again, turn back to bullish here. You see the, again, off of the Bitcoin's average price, you see the little bullish signals here, and then the trend signals began to turn a little bit higher. Do you see this? And then reaffirmed over here. I have good indicators. Warning before this sell-off happened with this divergence here, as I told you, and my warning signs as we were rallying. We were still near the highs of the session. I talked about the signals that were correct again. We have not been able to flip the cloud. We tried to do it earlier in the week at the Tuesday high, and we ended up selling off. I told you that was going to likely be the case. We still have momentum in positive territory. I told you back over when we were bottoming at the 53,000 area that momentum was going to turn back to bullish. It did, but you got to flip the trend signal. We're either going sideways or down right now because of the trend. If we flip it back to bullish, then we're either going sideways, forming a topping process much like what we had over here, or we're going up. So again, we're trying to flip the background right now back to a bullish. Maybe we flip the signal come this next week. If we get a big rally, then it could still fail, get a divergence forming in a larger topping process. So do keep that in mind. I'll be watching the topping tail. Keep saying the top can unfold in a couple of different ways, but these signals have to turn back to bullish and remain that way. Right now, I'm as bullish as I told you it would turn bullish, but the trend is still bearish. And we've got to clear the resistance levels and then stay above them, not pop up to above them, go to 74, 75, 76,000 and then drop back down, okay, and form a negative diversion. So you got to stay above them if you're going to have staying power. New bullish phase. The dollar continues to move higher. Coin continues to move higher. Cannot continue. They have a short-term positive correlation. One of them is wrong. Had a breakout and a back test and bounced off major support. Bitcoin's likely in a topping process. Both can't be, in this positive correlation, at least not for very long. Or during the 4-hour charts, again, we can pull back, we can back test, but then we could still go up and get a lower high or form a divergence right here in a topping process. If we get a successful back test and thing turn back to bullish and remain that way, then you have a legitimate breakout. But if you form a divergence, then you have a topping process, even if we move to higher levels above the March high. But right here, again, we're probably going to see some kind of rally with the presidential election, and my guess is we're going to see a top and a rug pull in all likelihood. I get a rally. I'm predicting we're going to get a presidential rally in all likelihood with Bitcoin. I think we will. It will complete a top. The Moon Boys, they say, oh, we're going to get this rally. They told us the sell-off wasn't even going to happen. We're going to get this rally, and we're just going to go to the moon, as they always say. I'm telling you, hey, we're going to rally, but then we're going to pull back, and we're going to back test, and then we're going to likely complete a top. I think it'll be a failed breakout. Now, again, if my signals all turn back to bullish long-term, well, I'll turn back to bullish long-term. But we're not there yet right now. Bulls have to prove we have a legitimate breakout, and they haven't done that yet. The parameter correctly predicted the sell-off we had could still form a triple divergence. A lot of my indicators form negative divergences predicting that. Again, if the move just fails, then again, we need to see evidence of that if we get that. But again, we could still go back up and revisit that level. My guess is that we will, but if we don't, that would be extremely bearish, extremely weak if we can't rally back above the broken trend line. About this chart, the last couple of videos, again, I think that we're likely going to form a divergence here or confirmation of a lower high. My guess is that we could form one of those two scenarios, a lower high or a higher high, and then I think we could turn and again likely peak above this level. If we get the higher high scenario, I think that's very possible. Get a big rally surrounding the presidential election, and then get your rug pull. Maybe that's with the Fed after. Maybe it's with tensions in the Middle East. Iran's talking about attacking Israel after the presidential election. Who knows? Whatever the catalyst may be. But again, we've gotten the short squeeze. Now we're going to suck in the bulls in all likelihood, and then you're going to get your rug pull. 4-hour chart of Bitcoin here. I think you got this double top developing on Bitcoin. Major problems with Bitcoin. The dollar has had a breakout, a back test, and it's now surging higher. The dollar has to collapse if Bitcoin's going to have this bull market. Okay, it's got to collapse, and it hasn't. It broke out in a backtested. Utility is suggesting Bitcoin's in a topping process. Recession indicators are flashing. That's problematic for Bitcoin. So we got a possible head and shoulders here if we end up selling off without moving to a new high or get a lower high or just go on down. We got a Class B divergence right here, 2 equal peaks on the RSI higher with price. Could see another divergence develop here. All the peaks over here have had divergences. Maybe we get one right here that's not a Class B, that's a regular Class A divergence where the indicator's lower and price is higher. We'll see. Weekly chart, again, we're pushing back below the trend line right here. Okay, if we get back above it, you could still form a divergence, very similar to what we had over here. Again, we had a divergence. The RSI doesn't look at the shadow, so we had this divergence right here, had a divergence right here, very similar. And then we turn down, we turn back up, turn down, turn back up. Could see something very similar to this over here. But like I said, Bitcoin, if it goes higher, it's got to prove itself. And if it does, then great. If it doesn't, then great. Then we'll see lower prices. Does prove itself, we'll see higher prices. But again, you got everybody the same way we were back over here. Again, exactly, that there's nothing taking Bitcoin down. These are the same people that told us all these sell-offs of distribution were never going to happen. These are the people that told us this sell-off was never going to happen. Again, they were saying the same thing here, and then we sold off, oh, here it comes, and then it didn't happen. And again, then after we had lost over 50%, 52%, then they told us, here it is, and again, the bottom fell out of Bitcoin. So the problems with the Bitcoin rally is Ethereum has now participated. Look at Ethereum. Bitcoin's back at the highs. Ethereum's nowhere near the highs. Okay, Bitcoin is near the highs, and Ethereum has prices near the recent lows. Okay, we're just above the recent lows over here. We're forming a bear flag, and we're stalling at the 100 period moving average. So again, if Bitcoin's going to keep going, well, Ethereum's not really participating, and we've stalled at this resistance area. We're stalled there. Bitcoin is getting back above resistance levels and testing the highs. Ethereum is not. Another problem is they're diverging from one another. Bitcoin, March high, made a new high, and Ethereum did not. Ethereum made a lower high. That's very problematic. Ethereum made a lower high. Bitcoin made a higher high above 69,000, this peak over here. So again, which this trend line is kind of interesting too, from this peak right here, 69,000 to the 73,000 area. Again, we're just directly below that. That's another interesting level to be watching. Should we push higher? If we end up forming a divergence right here, that trend line could be resistance. Interesting. But again, this is problematic for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's had to rally. Ethereum has really, done nothing and formed a bear flag. So again, which is a continuation of this.